Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Hospitable Hosts Podcast. Today, I am joined with Scott Sherin, founder of Trusted Stays, a co-host and a short-term rental owner himself. Scott's big on automation, using tools like Zapier, vibe coding, and learning all about how he can use AI to save time and streamline hosting. We'll dive into how he got started and what inspired his systems-driven approach, and how technology can make self-management easier for a host everywhere. And if you like today's conversation, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me, Scott. Let's start with just a little bit of background about you, your name, your business, and then I would love to start from the beginning and how you got started in short-term rentals.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks so much for having me, Gabby. My name is Scott Sherin. I am a Airbnb slash short-term rental host and co-host. So I entered the world of short-term rentals after purchasing my first property in Blue Ridge, Georgia, and I've been able to remotely manage that after a couple of years, having some success there, and started speaking online about how I was able to essentially find my local team, manage a local property without being there in person. And from there, started my co-hosting business where other people started asking me to help manage their properties, specifically out-of-state investors. So since then, I've grown my portfolio to 5 co-host clients. Purchased another property in New Hampshire that my brother and I own together and that I'm managing. And yeah, since then I've been focusing really on the co-host side and trying to expand my management portfolio. And Hospitable has been a big part of helping me streamline those things and help me keep the show running smoothly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what are those early hosting days before you got deep into the automation space? I know you said you host remotely, so yeah, before you got hospitable, and we'll dive into Zapier and all those fun things that you have added on to your portfolio there. But how did that look before automation?
Yeah, well, it's very chaotic without having, tools like Hospitable to help smooth things over. So, things like setting up automated booking confirmation messages, changing door codes manually instead of having like an automatic changer, not having review rules, not having any automated correspondence with guests. I'm very fortunate that I kind of entered the business with like an automation first approach, but you know, without being able to use those tools, there'd certainly be a lot more manual work for my business. It would take up a lot more of my time, and I wouldn't really be able to operate it as smoothly as I am had I not been introduced to these tools really early on, which I'm grateful for.
Awesome. So you describe yourself, and I did a little bit of deep dive into helping hosts, quote, self-manage like a super host. So what does that mean to you in practice? And what do you see a super host really having, like the characteristics of a super host?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I think the main thing is just really prioritizing the guest experience in every sense. And I know that kind of sounds generic, but from there you can kind of break that down to a lot of pieces, right? Like there's a standard of cleanliness that must be maintained. So that means you're not just assigning a cleaner and hoping they're doing a good job. You're creating checklists. You're bringing in third parties to verify some of the quality of the work done every now and then. You're making sure that things are restocked correctly and that small maintenance issues get reported and fixed in real time, right? So it's a certain level of expectations the guests have when they arrive, that if they're paying a lot of money to stay at this property, things should be a certain way. And we want to be proactive in noticing maintenance issues before our guests do, so that they don't have to worry about it. So that's one. Another thing is just having excellent communication with our guests. So I recommend that every host sends their guests a like morning after they check in touch base to allow them to voice anything they may have noticed about the house, if they're having issues with anything like working a television, or if something's not quite right, giving them an opportunity to express that, and then that gives the host the opportunity to remedy their issue quickly. So that way, if it's hey, we couldn't find the backup sheets for the pullout couch. Now you can help them find it, and you don't have to read that in a bad review that they showed up and there was no no sheets for the couch. So it's guest experience, but more specifically, it's a level of quality that they're expecting the property to have, a level of care they're expecting the property to have, and a level of care they're expecting their host to have for them, prioritizing their stay, making sure any issues are addressed quickly, and just showing a genuine care for how their vacation is. I would say those are really some of the things that any host can do, no matter what your property is like, to push you towards being a super host and accumulate great reviews, get repeat guests, etc.
Definitely. Reviews are so key. And exactly as you said, just tackling that right on before somebody brings that to the review is amazing. But you've also created some templates and guides for hosts. What gaps were you seeing that inspired you to make these?
Yeah, well, it's just honestly speaking from what has worked well for me. So it seems like as I'm in these Facebook forums and understanding the needs of other hosts, I'm seeing a lot of commonly asked questions like, "Hey, what messages are you sending when, what's the cadence of your automated messages, and what info do you include in your check-in message? What info do you include in your guidebook? How often do you chat with your guests? Do you completely leave them alone or not? Do you when do you offer a refund versus when you don't? How do you remedy solutions?" So I'm seeing all these questions come up, and I just figured if I can provide some resources for people to use for free and be able to steal my templates, it doesn't hurt my business at all, but it can help them with theirs, and then kind of just gives Airbnb hosts a better reputation overall, encourages more people to travel through the platform. So I see it, if I can help other hosts, then ultimately we all win. And that's why I try to be generous with my resources and give a ton of free things away, just to try to help others, without the expectations of receiving payment or a favor in return. It's really more just about giving more than you're expecting and trying to raise the tide for all boats, so to speak.
That's awesome. That's great. And I've been seeing you in our community talking about Zapier and other low coding or vibe coding tools. How did you get into that world?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I feel like most business owners in today's generation are really, at least curious about the evolution of artificial intelligence. And I know I'm not unique in asking this. How can artificial intelligence help my business? How can I use it as a tool to either earn more money, save me more time, increase the guest experience in the case of short-term rental hosts. So it just really started with the curiosity of how can I be doing things better. I'm always the person and if I hear about a new tool, I want to do a free trial of it and investigate it. If I hear about a strategy someone else is doing that I haven't done, I want to consider if it's working. So it's just really a curiosity and an open-mindedness to want to improve my business, to learn new tools, and try to kind of stay at the forefront of this new technology age that we're in the process of experiencing right now. So that's kind of how I stumbled upon Zapier and even Hospitable initially, but then like Zapier and a few other of these like automation / AI integrated tools. And since then, I've just found it really interesting, and I love talking about it, learning from others, teaching others, and just kind of diving headfirst into that world.
Yeah, definitely. Is there any way you could walk us through one of your automations or Zaps or something that really has changed your management rentals day to day? Is there one that sticks out to you?
Yeah, sure thing. So I'll start with some like really simple one that I think most guests can create right away. Is what I do is I have a Zap set up, and the trigger is when a new review is received.
Okay.
And the thing that makes that really interesting is I get the new review, and then I have an AI step automatically summarize any recommendations or constructive feedback from that review. And then they add it to my to-do list, and they categorize what the like category of the specific piece of feedback is, right? So I might get a review, and then I check my phone, and I have a to-do list item that says make sure the top of the fan blades are dusted, right? So it's like you can take feedback the feedback is only really helpful if you're turning it into an action item, right? If you have
Exactly.
all these guests making suggestions and you're never taking any of their suggestions, you don't have to take all of them, but if you're never considering what they think, then you're not really putting the guest first and striving to provide a great guest experience. So I have a Zap set up that essentially just populates a to-do list based on not only reviews I get from guests, but I've also set up one that does it with messages from the guests too. So I can take reviews, take messages, pretty much take all of our conversations and turn that into action items to help improve the guest experience. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's just one example. The more like complex kind of 2.0 version of that is you take the positive review, you drop it into a Canva template, and you post it on your Facebook
Yeah.
to show it. So there's levels of complexity that you can start to get really sophisticated with it, but the beauty of it is there's also some really simple ones that most hosts can just implement within an hour of understanding how the tool works. So that's the one that I like the most. I wake up with a list of to-do list items, and it's just feedback from my guests in their reviews and messages, and I
Yeah.
can assign those to team members, get those checked off quickly, and now I'm always thinking proactively. I'm always enhancing my guest experience as a result.
That's great. I think that ties nicely into who, if people are curious and but intimidated by automation and AI and this new wave that is not going anywhere, is that the workflow you would suggest for them to start with, or are there any other more easy ones that you would say are really key?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty simple one. Some of the other ones that I had begun to set up, I've actually kind of realized that Hospitable has already thought of that and has some of their own like automations built in. Like, for example, I know some common ones are like alerting team members or alerting local staff when like specific instances occur.
Yeah.
Um, so now, like, I have one that when I get a review, Zapier checks if it's a 5-star review, and if it is a 5-star review, um, then it'll automatically message the cleaner that's assigned to that property and let them know that we received a 5-star review. And it'll even let them know how many we've received in a row, because if we receive 5 in a row, then they get a monetary bonus. So they're waiting to get the feedback too, because they know it's tied into what they're actually earning working with me. So yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one. The thing about it is there's so many possibilities, and it just takes a little bit of experimentation. I'm speaking as someone who had never really heard of this tool a few months ago, and I don't have like um, like a computer science background or anything like that. So this stuff can really seem intimidating, but if you kind of just jump in and you're in the Hospitable community, Hospitable Facebook group, and you just have a curiosity to want to improve your business, then you can figure out a lot of these tools pretty self-sufficiently. So I encourage anyone to just get curious, talk in the Hospitable community, and not worry about the overwhelming nature of how AI and tech seems.
Definitely. Is there anything that you've wanted to automate but you haven't really cracked the code yet? Something that you're like, I want to stop doing this.
Yeah, yes, I'm trying to, and I know that the Hospitable Mogul plan might have some level of capability with this, so forgive me if I haven't fully explored it. But what I'd like to do is there's Hospitable has a pretty good like built-in AI for responding to guest messages. This other tool that I'm using has a somewhat similar one. I'd like to get to a point where I'm just asked if I want to send the message, and then I send it. So it's
Yeah.
like, hey, the guest asked this. I'm about to tell them this. If I don't hear from you in a minute, like, I'm gonna send it. But if you want to stop it, then click stop. So some like level of not full blown AI automation communication with guests, but like a level where it like keeps me in the loop, and I can kind of like treat the AI as if it's like my assistant, and I'm talking back and forth with it, and
Yeah.
they're like consulting with me between steps. So I know it seems a bit abstract at the moment, but I think we're not far from being there with some of the tech the Hospitable has and some other tools. So that's one that I'm pretty interested in, and yeah, there's a few marketing flows that I'm working on as well that I know are pretty possible that just take a little bit of time to set up. So those are some that I'm really interested in, especially with the new service fee structure that's laid out. I see it as more important than ever. So a lot of marketing flows that I'm in the process of building out, and then some more like AI communication type of things that I think are close to being feasible.
Yeah, and I think that brings about a good conversation on like what's worth automating and then what's worth the human touch, because
Hmm.
we are in the hospitality space, and it is that fine line between, sounding like a robot and then actually
Right.
being very human towards your guest.
Of course. Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to navigate. Like if I wanted to just have AI answer every guest, like the tech already exists for that. Like I can set that up right now. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a way to keep myself in the loop, so it's like there's some guardrails and parameters between like me being able to kind of check on things and make sure that like I approve of messages being sent, etc., while also making sure that guests aren't left without a response if like at a dinner or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think the tech is getting better and better, and I think the people who are learning it in real time are gonna be at a big advantage compared to those who tend to lean more on the traditional kind of like old school way of hosting.
Yeah, I agree. You've also been posting a little bit about collecting guest emails, and that's something that a lot of hosts are interested in doing, to manage follow ups. How do you find that balance between compliance and then marketing efficiency? And have you found that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Gabby, and I think you asked the right one. Is how do you find the balance, right? Because Airbnb, obviously, they're a business. They earn their money from service fees, right? So that's the name of the game for them. So not they're incentivized to make it harder for people to book direct,
Yeah.
and they're adding more verbiage into their terms of service with a recent update, essentially saying like specific verbiage around what type of info you're allowed to collect, what type of info you're not allowed to collect. Now they're rolling out like temporary phone numbers, so even if you collect the guest phone number, it's harder to correspond with them after. So yeah, it's forced guests to be a lot more clever. It's not just as simple as, oh, send me your email, and now that I have it, I'm going to send you my direct booking website, and you'll never have to use Airbnb again. They are making it harder. And I think the balance is just understanding the terms really well and understanding the nuances of what you can and can't do. And then also trying to make sure that all of your communication about anything related to direct booking whatsoever is like not on platform. So something that I've been beginning to experiment with that I think a lot of hosts are is having the like form collection, whether it's like collecting an email, collecting
Yeah.
a phone number actually like in the property itself, like through a QR code or through like even like a little sign-in sheet, like, hey, leave your email address and I'll send you some more details. So um, it's making sure that you're compliant with terms of service, making sure that if you're ever intend to bring guests back to book direct, you're not making those intentions clear via the Airbnb platform or even on the phone number, because now we know they're seeing those as well. So striking the balance is really the name of the game. And I'm sure, as you could tell, I'm working very hard to do that by the amount of questions I'm asking about it in the Facebook group and the Hospitable online community. So still trying to figure out an exact system that works, but I've got some pretty good things that I'm working on, and I think it'll be something I will continue to try to perfect to increase the marketing for my own business, and then help other hosts do the same.
That's what I was gonna say. Like once you perfect it, everybody's gonna want to hear about it. That's for sure. It's a very common question we get. But we'll wrap up here with one piece of advice you'd give a host who wants to manage more professionally without burning out.
Um, I would say two pieces of advice. One would be to lean into technology. There's a lot of really interesting tools. Not all of them are going to work for you. Not all of them are going to be a fit, but if you'd be amazed at the amount of solutions that are out there for problems that you might have if you just decide to get curious and look. So I would say like be curious about new tech and lean into it when possible. And then I would say the other thing is if you just accept the responsibility for anything that is negative in your business whatsoever, it's gonna give you agency to really succeed. Instead of like, oh, this guest is too needy, or oh, it's just one little cleaning issue, who cares, or the photos are just good enough. I don't know why. I think just holding yourself to a higher standards, accepting personal responsibility when things go wrong in the business. Guests can feel that too. Owning up to mistakes. I think that is like half the battle. It's not about if there's a spot on the sheet. It's about like what you do when a guest brings it out. It's about both, of course,
Yeah.
but I think just like that personal accountability and just having a high standard for the way you run your business is going to make all the difference.
Definitely. Well, thanks so much for joining me today. Is there a place that people can find you once you have all these lovely zaps going and that you want to direct people towards?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're in the hospitable community, you can just find me there. My name is Scott S, I believe, on the hospital community. I'm Scott Sherin on Facebook. Sherin is my last name. I'm super active in all the Facebook forums. I get messages from people curious to hear about stuff I'm doing, and I always respond. So that's a great way to contact me. And the name of my co-hosting business is Trusted Stays, one word. So if you're interested in hearing more about like the management side, or how I deal with my co-host clients, how I send my contracts out, how I market to people like that, how I find new potential leads, things like that, you can reach out to me on any of those platforms. And I'm an open book. I'm happy to share my resources and help the host community in any way I can.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thanks again for listening to today's episode. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and listen out for a new episode dropping real soon.